Hey there, my name's Elijah, and today I want to talk about a concept in CSS that I haven't really seen talked about very deeply, but that intrigues me. It feels like it might be a good idea, but it might also be a terrible idea. I'm really not sure. So that's why I wanted to record a video, put this out, and get some feedback. So what am I talking about? Let me wave a magic wand and set up some code here in CodePen, and then I'll jump into it. Okay, I've got things kind of to a baseline. I've reset the margin block start and block end for my paragraphs and the heading that I have. And I've just added some basic layout styling to the section and the section's inner div to kind of achieve a basic normal section layout. So here's the big question. What if CSS was smart enough to style our content based on the context of that content? And context specifically, in the way I'm using it, means the sibling elements, child elements, etc. Well, CSS has, pun intended, a way to do that. It's called the has CSS relational pseudo-class. And as you can see, we're actually at pretty good global support. I feel like 90% is like close enough to start using this in real projects, though a little higher would be nice. Those poor folks still using IE are just out of luck at this point. So it's well supported, but what am I even talking about, right? Like styling stuff contextually? I'm sure that's a concept, right? But in this case, I'm taking it a little bit further. Let me just illustrate this. So we can use the has selector to target sections that are composed in a certain way. So we could do section. And just to illustrate this, let me add another section here. So we have these two sections, no classes, but I want the first one to be a traditional kind of hero section. So if we use the has selector, we can actually target the section based on how it is composed internally. I mean, what it's comprised of, what are its child elements. So we do need to target the div, I believe, and then look at the child elements of that div. So let's just do H1 for now and see what happens if we change the background, right? So only our top section has a red background because the bottom section has an H2. So we could actually just swap that if we wanted to. Let's go back to H1. Now, what if we wanted to get more specific? Maybe we only want to style sections with a paragraph immediately followed by an H1. So we do P plus H1. Now, the effect is the same, but the ramifications of this being possible are immense, in my opinion. If this works, this means we could actually tell CSS to style our sections or cards or whatever based on what they contain, rather than having to write classes. So instead of writing a bunch of classes and needing to use BEM or utility classes or whatever, we have a style sheet that's smart enough to apply the necessary styles based on the composition of our elements, let's call them, or components or whatever. Here's what that would look like. So we know that a typical hero section is going to have, let's say in our scenario, a paragraph plus an H1 or maybe various heading elements. So we could do is to cover all of them, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, plus, now let's make sure nothing breaks as we go through this, plus, and now it's broken because I don't have anything after the plus. Let's do another paragraph, and our red color should come back, plus A. So our hero section is composed in such a way that the red background color is applying to it. Our CSS knows, hey, this was built the way I expect a hero section to be built, so let's make it look like a hero section, which we haven't done yet, but we will. There's another part of this too, which doesn't have quite as good global support, and we'll look at that. But first, let's go ahead and style this section besides just setting the background. So we want to use gap. I don't think we can without setting it to flex or grid. So we'll have to do display grid, gap on rem. And here's a gotcha, right? I'm targeting this section. So applying this stuff to the section doesn't actually work. We actually have to apply the stuff to the inner div, which we can do with CSS nesting, which is now a thing. This is the other part that makes this approach usable, right? If we go over here to CSS nesting on caniuse, global support's not great. I mean, all the current modern browsers seem to support it pretty well, and I think it'll get there. So it's kind of a risk you have to decide on. But for the illustration of this technique I'm talking about, let's go ahead and use it. So in div, so we're targeting the div inside of this section that matches this pattern that we've decided on, this hero section pattern. And now we can apply some stuff to this div. And as you can see, the CSS is really pretty clean and readable in my opinion. Let's go up here and add a background of EF to the hero section. Now let's jump back down here to the div. Let's do padding 2 rem 0 pixels, text align center. And then what else do we want to do? What do we want our CSS to do to hero sections that are composed in this way? Well, our overline needs to be a little closer to our heading, I think. So we can target the paragraph that is the first child of the section. And this is where it gets kind of weirdly challenging. How do you determine these recipes or these patterns, right? Because the P is the first child of this section could mean a few different things. That's where I think having something like atomic styles for things like overlines on their own would be good. But I don't think there's a way to target an element based on what follows it. So I can't say, okay, if there's a heading element with a paragraph before it, style that paragraph in a certain way, which is what I would want to do here. I don't think that's supported. I could be wrong. Let me know if I am. Okay, I'm recording this now as I'm editing this video because I realize, hey, I am wrong. You totally can target an element based on what follows it using the has selector. So let's find this. We don't want to target it as the first child because that might get a little weird. There are cases where maybe the first element is a paragraph and we don't want it styled this way. So let's get rid of that and we'll see our styles break here in just a minute. There we go. What do? We use the has selector. Does the paragraph have a direct following sibling that is an H1? If it does, voila, it's like magic. And in fact, we would probably want to do is H1 through H6 just because we might want to have overlines over other heading levels. Probably not H5 and H6, but either way, you can see that now we've gotten rid of that first child nonsense and we can avoid that. We can probably apply similar logic for our anchor element as well, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I just wanted to jump in and show you the smarter way of doing it because I realized past me was a dummy and forgot about this. All right, back to the video. So back to this, we want this to be text transform uppercase. Hopefully I remembered that. Yes, font size 0.75 rem. And then margin bottom, we're just going to offset that 1 rem gap. And that gives us our overline. Now let's style the paragraph that's not the first child. So this one is a little easier. So we just do is H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. I wish there was like an H star selector. That would be really nice. Plus P. And then we go in here and set max width 60 CH or something like that. Now we do have an issue there, and that's because our text is aligned to center, but we're changing the width of the text element and not everything in this div is centered. So we have to go back up here to the div and do justify content center. I think that will fix it. Yeah. So back down here, we have one more thing to style, and that's our button. So we'll do A, but if there are other anchors in here, we don't want to style them this way. They're not all buttons. So we'll do A last child because typically in a hero, the button's going to be the last child. Again, there are a lot of decisions to be made in determining what these patterns are, which is kind of exciting, but kind of daunting as well. So we do A last child. We know we want to style this as a button. So let's do padding 8 pixels, 32 pixels, text decoration, none, background, black, color, white. And then let's just throw a border radius of like 8 pixels on there. Okay, so it's not the most beautiful hero section in the world, but it does look like a section that might be at the top of a page. I never claimed to be a designer. But what have we done here? what is this thing we've created? What we've created is a smart selector. I mean, that's how I would term it, because if any piece of this recipe is missing, then it doesn't apply. Let's get rid of this. And this section is going to fall back to just unstyled, right? But as soon as this recipe is satisfied, our selector applies. How cool is that? So why I like this concept is because then I don't ever have to write a class. I just have to write good, well-structured HTML that satisfies the needs of the recipes in my CSS, and the styling is taken care of for me, which can, of course, be augmented with utility classes and things like that. But as a baseline, if I want to create a hero section, I just follow the pattern. Section 2, let's do an H2 this time. I'm going to be pretty. Let's add our second paragraph. This is some descriptive text. And then, as you can see, it's building, no styles yet. Let's go ahead and do our anchor. Click me. And I have another syntax error there. Let me fix that. So as soon as that recipe is completed, boom, look at the styles. And not a single class was written. No classes, just structure. So this is really interesting to me. I can write the proper structure, whatever you decide proper is, and have the styles applied based on that structure. And I can see I've got a little extra space below this. That's because I haven't zeroed out the margin block start and block end for H2s. Let's do that. And now you can see that styling kind of matches what we have up here. So is this a viable thing? I don't think so for page builders, because they have such opinionated architecture. They're going to be adding classes and default styles. But for writing HTML directly, I don't know. This feels like something that could be usable. Maybe there could be a framework based on smart selectors that apply styles based on the content of a container. And we could even make some of this stuff optional. So say we want to apply this styling, but we're not always going to have a description. We could do a generic sibling selector instead of the next sibling selector. So we could do tilde-a, and that's still going to apply here, whether we have this paragraph or not. So we get rid of that there, get rid of that there. And you can see that our style is still applying because we're matching the recipe. But it does contain styles for the description, or it could, this one doesn't in particular, but it could contain styles for those optional pieces of the recipe. Or if you want it to be really particular, you just add those immediate sibling selectors back. So I don't know, maybe this is something that could become a usable approach to writing some kind of smart selector framework. It's definitely something I've had on my mind for a long time. I haven't quite been able to roll it into anything usable, but let me know what you think, if this is an interesting approach at all. Maybe someone else has already done what I'm talking about and I can just use what they've created. But if not, it's definitely something that I'm interested in exploring, and so I wanted to share it with you today. And that's going to be about it for this video, so definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.